Welcome to Tales Beyond Threads. Dive into the most intriguing Reddit stories from across the internet. Sit back, relax, and let the stories unfold. Turn my service off right now. Okay. I work for a major cable internet, TV, and home phone provider. The one that is probably the most hated. You know the one. The department I work in is responsible for either saving a customer or turning their services off. Call came and transferred from our tech support team, and by this time the customer was already on the phone for an hour. Tech agent was able to get service back up and running, but he was now asking for a large credit for 1 day of service out. As soon as I got on the phone, it was demands. Here's what you're going to do. If you can't do this, then turn my service off immediately. I no longer want to be a customer. I tried to calmly explain to this very rude man that I could not credit him over $200 for 1 day of service, but would be more than happy to process a credit more appropriate. He declined, and again demanded that his service be turned off immediately. I reiterate the immediately part to him, and he says, "Yep, right now." Cue malicious compliance. I turn off all his services right there that very second. He starts screaming that he was watching that, and what am I going to do without internet? I told him that I was only doing what he asked. This ended with me restoring service and giving him a credit appropriate to his 1 day outage, which we figured out was user error on his end. All you did here was prove that you can in fact turn off service without requiring 3 6-hour phone calls to various customer service reps. I remember when people were posting their ridiculous customer retention calls online. I wonder if it has gotten better. I was hoping this ended with him using the phone service you provided to call you, so his call suddenly cut out. You must use the self-checkout. Yes, sir, but it's not going to work. I was at a local gas station, and it has a self-checkout system. It also takes food stamps. The rule is you have to go to the register, not the self-checkout, to use the food stamp card. I was there today with a food stamp card getting me some lunch, and the guy was manning the self-checkout. It came to my turn, and the following conversation happened. Cashier, come on up. Me, oh, I've got to use the register I've got. Cashier, no, you can use the self-checkout now. Come up, you're wasting time. Me, sir, I have a food. Cashier, you must use the self-checkout. Come up now or leave. Me, yes, sir. I walked up and scanned my items and tried to use my food stamp card, and like I knew it would, it did not work. Cashier, what the hell is going on with this dumb thing? Me, showing him my card, sir, I was trying to tell you I have a food stamp card. I have to use the regular register. Cashier, come over here, and let's get this over with. Next customer can use this one. I walked over, paid for my items, and left. All I could do was walk out the door and laugh. Yes, cashier, what the hell is going on with this dumb thing? Damn, he is very harsh to himself. Is this a place you have to go? Sounds like a rude-ass cashier I would avoid if I could. It's my job to deal with it? Sure, I work in public services. It was a new role, and I am the first and only one of me. Essentially, this means that my job scope can be pretty broad, and I have a lot of fingers in a lot of different pies. I have also gained the reputation of a no-nonsense problem solver, cannot for the life of me think why, so when people have issues, they tend to come to me. I was busily hashing out a few tasks last week when I get something else slapped onto my plate. A manager of a service we commission with, appropriately named Karen, has apparently been working her way through people because she isn't getting the resolution she wants. So one of the managers in finance wants me to look into this for Karen. Now, a thing to note here is that every April we increase rates along with inflation, but she didn't get it. Thing is, it's out of our hands. The services we commission from her are funded between us and another separate public service, PS2. We pay half, PS2 pay half, but we haven't paid the increase because PS2 haven't agreed anything yet. What can I say? It's the public sector. Our team's conversation goes something like me, hey finance manager, I can't actually do anything about this because finance manager cutting me off. This is your job. It's your department that deals with these contracts, so deal with it. I don't care how, just get her off my back. Now, that's mostly paraphrased ... except for that last sentence which he said verbatim, I don't care how, just get her off my back. I write in chat to confirm I am to deal with this, and you do not care how. Finance manager says yes, for Christ's sake. I crack my knuckles and get to work, sending her the following email and CCing in finance manager and my own manager. Dear Karen, I apologize for the delay in the inflationary increase for service. However, as this is jointly funded between ourselves and PS2, we are beholden to their financial timeliness. As PS2 have not yet agreed to the 4.1% increase, we are unable to process it. Regardless of how many individuals you contact, this will remain the case until PS2 see fit to approve. In instances such as these, our recourse should be to head down to the offices of PS2 and begin smacking naughty bottoms, but I fear HR would frown upon such action in these enlightened times. Might I suggest contacting PS2 yourself in order to expedite the process? I'm sure finance manager finance.manager at my place work would be happy to direct you to the appropriate contact and answer any further questions. Warmest regards, my name. I then immediately got a Teams call from my manager where for 30 seconds all I could hear was laughing, and he asked me what was going on. I sent him the screenshots of the chat messages between myself and finance manager and relayed the Teams call. My manager told me that it was not, in fact, my job. How odd. And later that day finance manager apologized, but also warned me that in the future you should probably hold back on the bullock withering sarcasm. People might not find it amusing. I think I'm hysterical, personally. An update. I had a Teams call from finance manager. Turns out he'd just gotten off the phone with PS2. They'd called him asking who the hell Karen is and why they received 41 separate emails from her in the past week. Seems like someone set that particular pit bull onto PS2, but whoever that person was must have made a terrible, horrible error, because they sent her to a completely different team that were apparently very confused as to what was going on. So they sent her to another team, who sent her to another team. She's currently being passed around like a spliff at uni housing. But here's the kicker. She's being passed off due to her nuisance behavior. That's a given, but also because PS2 can't authorize the uplift in her fees. She filled in her business address incorrectly back in January when we began commissioning with her. We have one address, PS2 have another, meaning that PS2 systems have flagged it as a discrepancy, and she's so busy demanding her money that she isn't responding to the urgent emails that the PS2 team have been sending out. There does not seem to be an end in sight. Absolutely astounding. No notes. 10/10. Smacking naughty bottoms should be approved in the HRSLP annual. More would get done. We need more public servants like yourself. Later that day, finance manager apologized, but also warned me that in the future, you should probably hold back on the bullock withering sarcasm. People might not find it amusing. I appreciate your apology, but since you tempered it with a warning, then let me go ahead and warn you right back. I'm not putting up with your department's bullshit. Find some other toady to order around. I think I did my first malicious compliance yesterday. There's my company and there's the other company, and both cooperate once in a while. In my company, I'm one of 2 people who have a monthly ticket for trams and buses. The rest travels by cars. The other company is in the old city zone where only cars with an official permit can travel and park. So if my boss needs any person to go there, it is my coworker or I. 2 days ago, he asked me, because I was around while the colleague was on lunch break. I was to deliver some documents. It is faster than hiring a courier, because a courier must take a package to warehouse where it is registered and then goes out. So it could take a whole day if a courier picks it up late. And if my colleague or I go to the other company, it is only 45 to 60 minutes. The way my boss explained, I was to go to the other company and they set a time interval 15.00-15.30, so I was to leave around 14. Okay, all clear. My boss wrote an email when I was leaving, so they knew when I was to arrive. They confirmed. All was set. I was there just after 15. I was to leave the package no can do. Their lady manager was to check it and then notify my boss if some documents are missing. So where is she? I missed her. Whole 5 to 10 minutes. And I was to wait for her because not one person in the other company knows which documents were in the package. But it's all good. She'll be back in 15 minutes. Not to worry. And don't tell your boss. That part was weird, so I grabbed my phone, wrote a message, something like there's a misunderstanding, sending email, then a detailed email with description, but not blaming the other company. There must be a misunderstanding, because, and here I put what they told me. The timestamp was 15.03, so I was definitely not late. What was even more weird, my boss checked the reply from lady manager. She confirmed. Not an employee, the lady in person. So I sat there, grabbed a book on my phone, all perfectly fine. Some 30 minutes later, my boss asks if I delivered the documents. No lady manager around. I ask, and they weren't allowed to call her. But there is no need to notify my boss. They were sure she'd be here any minute. So I wrote another text, no lady manager around, sending email, added detailed description including their statement they weren't allowed, and kept waiting. Next 30 minutes, no lady boss. My boss called them. They pretty much repeated what they kept telling me. I added another email, boss. I listened to your conversation. They aren't happy, but I couldn't wait outside. They insisted I was not to wander around with the documents. Got not a problem. Do what they suggest and notify me immediately. I kept waiting. They wanted to get me a mineral water. I declined, wrote to my boss, got email back. Close to 16.40, the lady manager barges in. Why wasn't I earlier as they decided? I grabbed my phone, read the timestamp, read the email with set conditions. She went reddish purple, got the package, I can go. I'm sorry I can't go. I was told repeatedly she was to check if documents aren't missing. She insists. I write a text to my boss. She doesn't want to check documents. Sending email, and I read the message. She was not happy, but at last decided to check the documents. I thanked her, waited for her email to my boss, and wrote another email immediately. Left only when my boss wrote back that she really confirmed all the documents were in the package. Later she contacted the owner and blamed us. So it was my luck that I wrote all the emails so religiously, and when the owner called my boss all furious, it was easy to deliver copies. My boss asked me today to his office, and let me read emails too from the owner of the other company. There was a lawyer who explained that in normal circumstances I wouldn't be allowed to read it, but the lady manager insisted we did something wrong, especially me, and as it was also about me, I was to read this even if I wasn't the recipient. They also asked me to print the emails directly from my email account and screenshots from my mobile, plus write a detailed note from all of this including timestamps from my emails, which I did. I don't know what it was. A weird power play? A way to discredit the other company? I don't even know if it was a malicious compliance or not. Sorry, I don't think my boss or the lawyer will tell me more. Possibly if they try to sue, but why should they? I'm former search and rescue from many years ago. My Commander B had a few pet phrases he'd use, and some of it stayed with me for life. Key one here is if you didn't write it down, it never happened, meaning you can't prove it happened. Timestamps on emails proved what you said. Same. I work insurance claims. My first company had 2 golden rules, Saya, if you don't document it, then it never happened. I've lived by these rules ever since, and it saved my rear a ridiculous number of times. Just saved my company $1.5 million last year, because I kept everything fully documented. We don't do refunds here. I was racing between things one day and didn't have much time for lunch. At the time, McDonald's wasn't absurdly expensive, and one was on the way to my next stop, so I decided to hit the drive-thru up so I could eat on the way. I placed my order for a medium thing and got asked if I wanted a large, which most McDonald's don't do anymore, and I said no. When I got to the window to pay, the price seemed high, which I thought was odd, but maybe I just did the mental math on the taxes wrong or misremembered the price of the item. And then the cashier didn't hand me a receipt. Weird as well, but whatever. When I got to the window to receive my food, it all clicked as they handed me a large, which I politely declined as I really had zero interest in paying $2 for a few more fries and soda. At this point, the manager appeared and stated, "We don't do refunds here." That was when I realized what was going on. Having worked fast food before, they were probably doing some sort of upcharge competition, ring up the most larges and you, that manager, get a reward. I was slightly flabbergasted, but the manager repeated that no possibility of a refund. I politely smiled and said, "That's okay. I'll call my bank on speaker to do a charge back. I'll need you to talk to them. Since it's on speaker, you can just tell them you can't do refunds." And then proceeded to sit at the window, calling my bank during lunch hour at a very busy drive-thru. Turns out they can do refunds, and they can do them so fast I didn't even make it through the phone tree. And yes, I did file a complaint with corporate, but it's not like that actually does anything. Not entirely accurate. When I worked McDonald's in high school, the franchisee I worked for would have been all over our managers' asses about a single complaint like this. You don't do any freaking thing that could potentially slow down the drive-thru. That is a cardinal sin. I once got told to pressure wash the drive-thru during fucking lunch rush. Someone called and complained that it took me 90 seconds to wash the section in front of the window instead of just getting out of their way and leaving that part undone. My manager got a phone call within 20 minutes chewing her ass out for letting that happen. She was the one yelling at me to get in their way and get the job done when I told her it was a bad idea. The GM had my back the next shift I worked and wouldn't let her write me up for it. She got written up instead. Yeah, this blew me away as a former McMaintenance man. I've seen managers break every single protocol and health food law to get food out the window at the 90-second mark. The idea that you'd tell a customer that you don't do refunds is absolutely insane. Thanks for watching Tales Beyond Threads. If you enjoyed the stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest tales. See you next time.